Hello, everybody. This is Nick Vlahos from Nick in the Morning at pjstar.com. This is Nick in the Morning, the podcast, and our special guest today is Journal Star Public Safety reporter Andy Kravetz. How you doing? How you doing today, Andy?
Great.
How great are you doing?
Oh, super.
We're going to talk a little bit with Andy today about his background, kind of how he came to the Journal Star, how long he's been here, what he's been doing, some of his highlights of his tenure here, and we're going to talk about some other things too. We're going to talk about St. Louis and hockey and bad pizza, and
it is not bad pizza.
We're talking about Emo's Pizza in St. Louis, which is like
greatest thing ever.
It's the most horrible pizza that
no, it's
known
not.
to man.
Look, it's got a nice flat crust. It's got the Provel cheese.
Yeah, it's got the plastic cheese on it.
It's not plastic. It's a mixture of cheddar and mozzarella and provolone. Anybody can make a really thick pizza that's full of God knows what, and just pass it off, and it weighs like a ton, and you drop it on the table and it breaks.
I'd rather have that than cheese that was made in Frankenstein's lab.
It wasn't made in Frankenstein's lab.
All right, let's get to the point here.
All right.
I know we're going to be, folks, this is going to be the way it's going to be all day. We're going to be diverting off the script.
But you also have to get why, because we sit right next to one.
Yes, Andy and I, our desks are adjacent to each other in the Journal Star newsroom. So this is what you're basically doing right now is listening in on what we have this show in the newsroom like every day.
And we talk about the Cubs.
Right, and the Cardinals.
Well, of course, we talk about the Cardinals.
So you're getting a rare glimpse into like the inner sanctum of the Journal Star. So you may want to turn away like in fear, but trust me, it'll be fun.
I hope so.
You're from St. Louis originally?
Yes.
Okay. What area?
I am from West County. For all you people who are from there, I went to Parkway Central High, which is the alma mater of Max Scherzer, the pitcher.
Well, that's the quintessential St. Louis question, isn't it? Everybody asks, where'd you go to high school?
Right. It's just that's the first thing you ask, and I never knew it was a big deal until I moved out of town, and then I would ask people, and they would look at me like I was dumb. So, I'm from West County. I'm about 20 minutes west of the river, and I grew up there, and that's where I'm from. And then
you were a wrestler in high school. Is
yes,
that right? Varsity
wrestled. I wrestled and ran. I wrestled 87. I wrestled 98 pounds, and I wrestled 103. And then when I went to college, I wrestled 118 for like clubs or intramurals for my frat.
You went to the Missouri State Tournament when you were in high school, right? Or no?
No. Well, I went there to watch.
Okay, because I think that
our team went. We had a very good team, and I got knocked out at sectionals, I think.
Because I think I remember that I think we came to the conclusion that I was actually covering the Missouri State High School wrestling meet.
Yeah,
at the same
it would have been like 85, 86, 87, 88. I was there all 4 years. That was a big deal. I mean, I remember we would go to forgot what the name of the arena was.
Hearn Center,
and it would be full. I mean, it would be packed to the gills, and we would go there, and it was a really cool thing because all the kids of the team would go overnight, and we'd go swimming, and the kids who were not having a match, the other kids would hang out and party and just have a good time.
How can you not have a good time in Columbia, right?
Well, you have got Booch's.
Booch's Bar in Columbia, home of some of the greatest hamburgers in the world.
It's
probably.
Grease. It's great. It's great grease.
Excellent grease.
It is great grease.
Yeah, but I was surprised that there were as many people at the state wrestling tournament in Missouri as there were, because nobody went to the basketball tournament.
No,
the wrestling tournament was packed.
It's funny you mentioned that. When I was in school, our wrestling matches would fill the gym, which was a normal suburban gym. It's bigger than the Richwood gym is now, but not much. But our basketball games would be empty. It was just really big.
Yeah.
Our hockey team, our school's team, would fill up some of the rinks. Our football team really didn't do that well, and our baseball team was very good. That year, when I was there, we had a guy within the '84 Olympic Games. His name was Dave Silvestri.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of Dave Silvestri.
Yeah.
Well, he was on the same team. I believe Mike Dunn, who's from Limestone, also was on that '84 Olympic team, I think.
We could
Might
look
have been
it up.
the '88
We
Olympic
could,
team. I don't know.
we could maybe have Matt look it up.
Ant Dayhoff, the guy who's spinning the dials here and running the board here on the podcast.
Who basically now has like this weird smirk on his face.
Dave Silvestri went to Mizzou, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's also where I remember him from. Now, after you got out of high school, you decided not to go to Mizzou for college, which is strange because you're a journalist.
Well,
and
but you
Mizzou
have to get why, because back then the school wasn't as good as it is now. And yes, they did have a J program, but I didn't want to be a reporter then.
Right.
I wanted to be a doctor, so I went to Vanderbilt in Nashville. Was pre-med there until I took organic chem, and I got a C. And that pretty much
that was kind of the end of that.
Yeah, I mean, I still finished the major, and I still did all that stuff, and I took all the classes. But once you get a C in that class, you're pretty much done.
What was your major?
I had a bio major and a history major, and then I had a minor very close. I think I was like one class off, so I just say I got it.
Mm-hmm. So you went all the way through Vandy and didn't take any journalism classes?
They didn't have one there, and I believe that you don't need a J program. I would tell people the best way to be a reporter is to go outside and to meet folks and to talk to folks and to do what you can, because the simple fact is our jobs are not rocket science.
You're letting the secret out.
Well, I mean, the secret is this: all that we really do is we go out and we talk to folks and we write down what they say. And if we don't get it, we ask them more things. And if we still don't get it, we keep asking them until we get it. And then the hard part is trying to take all those notes and make them into something that folks want to read. But yeah, I did that. Then I came back to St. Louis, and I was a stringer for the Post, and I was a stringer for the Bureau of National Affairs, covered the Missouri State House. And then I wrote for Sludge magazine.
Wait a minute, what is Sludge magazine?
I don't know what it is now. I don't even know if it's around. It was a trade mag on basically on trash. It was a trade magazine for the trash business.
So Sludge wasn't some sort of like a euphemism for, it wasn't like Mad Magazine or something?
I wish. I mean, my God, I wouldn't be here. I would be, living, writing for maybe like Stephen Colbert. But instead, I'm here because I wrote about like solid waste management.
Yeah, what kind of stories would you write for Sludge
Oh
magazine?
well, I mean it was a trade magazine, so I would be, for instance, for B&A, I would cover managed care, and I would write about stuff that would come out with that. For Sludge, I would follow bills as they had to track through the House and through the Senate of Missouri, and if they ever wanted me to do a feature on some like new like trash truck or some new ways to haul garbage or new water treatment stuff, I'd write about it. I mean, I was writing anything that I could. I would work 4 to 5 nights each week covering school boards and covering City Hall. I did sports. I covered the Bulls when they came to St. Louis.
They play an exhibition game?
Yeah, they played it. I don't even know who they played against. I just know with the Bulls, and I got to stand next to the coach. What was his name?
Phil Jackson.
Yeah, he's really tall.
Yes, he is.
I
Especially
mean,
compared to you.
well, I came up to his armpit. I mean, the top of my head came up to his
Be a
armpit.
nice little cozy fit.
It was. I kind of fit there, and we snuggled. No, I covered that, and I don't know a single thing about basketball. I remember talking to one of the writers there, going, "Can you help me out? I really don't know the sport." But I wrote a story, and that was for the AP. I covered the floods in Missouri for the AP.
That was in '93.
Yeah, covered that. Well, because I was there, and they needed writers. I covered state races, managed care. I mean, anything that I could.
Let me backtrack just a little bit here, and we'll come back to this. But when you were going to Vandy, what was it like going to college in Nashville? Music City, USA. I mean, what was it like?
Vandy at the time, I don't know what it is now. I mean, because I'm one of these people who will never go back to his school and point out the place. I got drunk there, and then you go show friends and family. That's stupid. Vandy was a self-contained campus at the time. 80% of the kids, students, lived on campus. They had a store. They had everything on campus. You really didn't need to go off. I didn't have a car. So when I did go off, I would walk a few blocks and do that. And I also was in a frat, so I would hang out there. And I was taking two majors there. I was also on the student paper there, and I was also on the radio there. So I did a lot of that.
So
as far as for Nashville, what I remember about it, the live scene, going to see live music was amazing. We saw a lot of really, really great acts. I saw the Pixies. I saw Who's Purdue. I saw the Indigo Girls right before they got big,
Sure.
or maybe right after that record came
Suffice
out.
it to say, you didn't spend a lot of time hanging out at Tootsie's Orchid Lounge or anything like that.
No. Although there was a really cool dive bar called the Bluegrass Inn, and it served very, very cheap beer. And it served stale popcorn, and it was a family of bluegrassers, musicians, and they would. If you were 18, it was not a bad place to hang out.
No, I imagine it was probably.
I don't know
probably
why. I just really liked bluegrass and stale popcorn.
There's much to be said about both of those things.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And they had the red and white polka dot not napkin tablecloth.
Did you have to wear like Minnie Pearl's hat with the thing? The
I
price
would have
tag
liked
hanging
that,
out?
no, but I kind of wore the same hat that I'm wearing. I wore these hats, and I wore.
That's unfortunate, but
the card win.
Obviously you had a step there in between Vandy and going to St. Louis to work at newspapers. You were also decided to go to Missouri, University of Missouri.
That was after.
That was after Vandy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I went to Mizzou in 96 to get a master's.
That's the other thing that Andy and I have in common is we're both master's degree recipients from the University of Missouri School of Journalism.
The hardest school ever for that.
You'd never know that we both have master's degrees just listening to us talk.
Because we are here.
That's right. Why did you do that?
Well, I did it because at the time, I mean, it was hard to find a job. And, back then, newspapers were still big. And, it was hard to find a job. The staffs were huge. And the web was not really there yet. And it was hard to find a job. And I figured I needed to go back to school to try to get that thing on my resume. And I went there and I majored in science writing. There's sort of a trend here that nothing what I've done has led to this.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, it's a blast. And then I did my master's thesis on floods and how to report on floods. And then I covered Washington D.C. I went out to the White House, and I covered that for the Nashville Banner, which was the afternoon paper there. I met Janet Reno kayaking.
Wow. You were kayaking or she was kayaking?
Both.
Nice.
No, really. I mean, that's the honest truth.
She much
we
of
were
a paddler?
No, she wasn't bad. We were kayaking the Mather Gorge.
Where's that?
It's on the Potomac. It's maybe 10 minutes north of town.
Oh, that's not that far.
And you have some fantastic water 10 to 15 minutes right out of town. That's why they have the U.S. There is a bunch of U.S. Olympic guys and gals who train there. They're fantastic folks. And I was paddling there because, I mean, kayaking is my passion. It is my love, and I love being on the river. And I'm trying to get Chris Setti to hopefully build a whitewater course.
Chris Setti, the executive director of the Peoria Economic Development Council, who you pester like nonstop about, like, let's get a whitewater course on the Illinois River.
For about 15 plus years now.
Well, you know, another 15 years ought to do it.
No, it's not going to get done. But anyway, I was paddling, and here she comes down the river, and she had 3 or 4 guards with her. And she was kind of like all tight wob.
So they got to be paddling too, right?
Yeah, they were paddling, and they were. I mean, it wasn't hard. It was like class 2, class 3. You know, nothing super hard, but it's still rapid. You kind of still have to know what you're doing. But in terms of hard, not really.
That's really.
So she comes down, and it was like a really hot day, and I didn't have a shirt on. I had my my vest on and my helmet, and I was starting to burn because, as you can tell, pretty fair skinned. And she comes up, and I say hi, and she says hi, and she starts to paddle off, and I'm burning, and I know it's Janet Reno. I mean, I'm not stupid. So I paddled up to her, and I asked her if I could borrow sun block. She looked at me and said, "Yeah, sure." So she got it out of her boat, put it on my arms, and I gave it back to her, and she paddled off, and I paddled off, and that's it.
There's a brush with greatness.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was like 97, I think.
So this is right before you arrived in Peoria, basically.
Yeah, about a year prior.
Okay. Well, how did you end up in Peoria? What was the?
I got a job.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I was applying for work, and they said yes. I mean, it's not really that. I mean, I confess, this wasn't high on my list. I applied to play. I wanted to be a science writer. My dream at the time was to write for the Times, the New York Times science page.
Why?
Because I like science. It's fun. There's something really cool about talking about science and trying to use your writing to teach folks, and it's cool. And I had covered politics at the local, state, federal level. I had written one or two sports stories, and I had covered crime. I had covered everything, and I wanted to do this. I thought it was a lot of fun. Well, I couldn't find a job, and I was 28, and I needed a job, and this place offered me a job covering the Fed courts. I said, okay.
And that was your first beat, was covering federal court?
Yeah, I did Fed courts for like the first year. I did PHA, which was the housing. So like the Taft, the water, and the Harrison homes, as well as the other sites. And then after about a year of that, or two, maybe 3. Two. And then I did GA.
General assignment.
Yeah, where I did pretty much everything. And then in '01, I got moved to the court beat, and I've been there ever since.
And now you're talking about the state court in that case.
No, I was moved to state and fed.
Okay.
Because that was when they combined it.
Right. Because at one time the Journal Star, those were separate beats. Federal court was one beat.
You kidding me? At one time, I think we had. I mean, I've heard stories that we had 4 folks covering the courthouse.
Ah, the good old days.
And we had 1 or 2 folks covering City Hall, and we had 1 to 2 folks covering Fed Court and what was in there. And now we've got 1.
And that's basically you. I mean, what do you do? What do you cover now for the newspaper? What are your beats entail?
I cover crime. I cover the courthouse. I cover legal things. I listen to the scanner. I go if there is a fire. I go if there's a shooting. I go if there's an oil spill. I go if there's a toxic waste. I said Nick.
Boom.
So no, but I would probably go cover that too. I cover the courthouse if there's a trial of note. We cover it. We don't cover as much as we used to. We simply can't. The paper is smaller, and we don't have the room, and we don't have the manpower to cover it all. It takes time, and I also cover the armed forces. So all of the guard units, all of the reserves, the Coast Guard, and the Navy, and all that stuff.
What's the coolest part of your job?
Sitting right by.
Oh, I mean, aside from that, I was going to say,
that's
better. Kind of a given.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing better than sitting by you.
That's right.
I don't know. What's the coolest part of my job?
Yeah, what's the thing you like the best?
You get to see a slice of life that most folks don't get to see. And that's both good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get that I write about things that are not good. That if I am writing a story about you, the odds are it's not your best day. Whether you are a victim or whether you are the person who did a crime or you landed in court. I get that. But I grew up in an area where I didn't see some of the stuff that I see now. I didn't experience it, and you see a slice of life that most people don't get to see, and I think it's good. I mean, I've gotten to do things that the average person simply can't do, and it's work. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fun, but it's work. I mean, I've gotten to see the big cat trucks up close. I've gotten to be on tanks. That's cool. I've gotten to see people going through grieving moments that nobody should ever see. And it's an awesome thing to watch in terms of the human life and what you see. It makes you get how lucky you can be. And how lucky you are. I mean, I've covered so many just stories. I mean, I can't even. I remember once there was a murder in the Taft homes, and I was in the house of these 3 women who were really related somehow, and I forgot how. I think they were cousins. I don't remember. But every single one of them had lost someone to guns. I'm not saying had someone been shot. All 3 of them knew someone different who had died from gunfire. And that was like in '05. So it's not like suddenly this new thing. It was atrocious. And I can't fathom that. I've never known a single person who's been shot other than in the war, who's a friend of mine. It's just, and say whatever you want. I mean, maybe I was a sheltered kid, whatever. I don't know. But it was a fascinating thing. because you look at that. You get to, when you cover the armed forces, it's like you learn about things that the average person doesn't get. 80% of the folks here in the U.S. cannot serve for any one reason. And then
physical reasons, or
it could be
whatever.
legal, it could be medical, whatever. And then of that 20%, one or even less than one choose to serve. So most people have no idea what the armed forces are like. Yes, our dads might have served, our grandfathers, and a veteran somehow. But, the wars that have been taking place are being affected by the very small number of folks. And it's an amazing thing when you get to know these folks and talk to them. And it's a slice of life that I would have never seen but for this job. At
the same time, isn't that also the most difficult part of the job, is dealing with people that have just had that devastating loss in their personal lives?
Yeah, it sucks. It's awful. I am a human being too. I am married and I happen to have kids, and I can't even imagine losing your wife or your kids or your husband or your brother. Whatever it is, your father, your mother. It's awful, and it's horrific, and it's scary. It's scary for me because, you walk up to these people and you know that they're grieving. And they know exactly who you are because you stand out. I'm there. I'm holding a pad. I've got a reporter thing on. And so they know exactly why you are there. And you've got to ask these questions. But the first thing you do is you say, look, man, I'm sorry. I feel for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. And what I try to tell them is, in 2004, I did a series where I followed, where I drove all over the state, and I talked to 12 families who lost someone in the first year of the war, and they were all from local units.
You're talking about in Afghanistan, or?
It was both Afghanistan and Iraq. There was Jacob Frazier, who died in March of 2003. No, I forgot. But he was with the 182nd,
which is based in Peoria.
Yeah, and all these guys were based here. And you talk to these parents, and it's just mind blowing. There was people. And I drove literally all over the state, and there was every service branch, and it's heartbreaking. But what you tell them is, you aren't gonna like this now, and you're not gonna like me now bothering you. But in 10 years, when you have this thing saved and you put it into a sheet of plastic and you look at it, you're gonna be glad that you talked to me, because we keep the memory of folks living. Because as long as you remember someone, they aren't gone. I remember talking to Jacob Frazier's dad. It was in a bar up north. I had driven up there to meet him, and he didn't want me to go to his house. And I remember he was smoking, and it was like the plume of smoke was over his head. And he was trying to describe how he felt. And he said one of the things that he's proud of is that him and his son, who was, again, a grown man, and he was serving with, he was in the Air Force, but he was part of a unit that would be serving with the Green Berets, but he was not one. And he said, you know something, I'm always proud of the fact that we always said, I love you. We would always hug and kiss. Because you never know.
It might be the last time they see each other.
You never know, and that stuck with me. I remember going to a home of a soldier who died. It was in McDonough County.
Macomb, that area.
No, it was north of there. I think it was Colchester.
Okay, yeah. Colchester's just west of there, yeah.
I was driving, and it all looks the same.
Oh,
But
our readers in Macomb will love to hear that.
yeah, well, it's cornfields. I mean, it's not too hard. But and I remember talking to his mother, and she became a big Poison fan because her son loved the band Poison.
You're talking about that, like Bret Michaels and that Poison?
Yeah.
Ricky Rocket?
So she went out and bought a bunch of Poison records or disc or whatever in '04 people were using. And she would play them over and over again. And that was the way that she kept her son living.
It's interesting.
It was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, it stuck with me. And there's other stories too. But, I mean, they're all like that. I mean, I've had stories here in town. People are an amazing thing. We all live amazing lives. We just don't really know it. To us, it's no big deal. You know, I did this because you lived it, you've thought about it, and it's no big deal. You tell another person, and they're like, "Wow, man, that's cool."
Yeah, it is funny how that is. You just do your normal thing, and you may be that's why you could be an inspiration to somebody else, and you don't even realize it.
Me, please.
Well, I'm using you in the general sense.
You could be. Me, I'm as far from that as you can get.
What is the goofiest thing you've ever covered or seen on an assignment? That's probably a pretty broad brush.
Wow.
But
Over 20 years here and over 10 years prior. I mean, let's see. I covered when I was talking to a Missouri State Senate candidate, and he was a pig farmer, and he had this big boar who had
that's
tusks.
BOAR, right?
Yeah.
Not BORE. Just a
Yeah, like the big hog.
Yeah.
And had tusks that were like probably 3 to 4 inches, I don't know. And it was a really hot day, and he had to wash the hog down because apparently hogs don't sweat. Or I don't know. I'm not a hog farmer. So I'm there talking to him, and he's hosing off his hog. And then he tells me, "Here, hold this hose. I've got to wipe around the other side." So I'm there holding this hose. I've got a pad of paper in my hand, and this dude is spraying, and I'm spraying water on this guy.
So you're doing the interview like in the middle of the pigsty or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we're standing in the middle of a pigsty thingy. I covered when I was here. I covered a butterfly house. They had it at the Metro Center. They set up like a tent. He would walk in, and all these butterflies were flapping around.
Wouldn't they get a little annoying after a while?
Yeah. I don't like bugs. Let's see, what else? Goofy. There's all kinds of goofy things. I mean, some of them are goofy, and if you call them goofy, you're going to upset certain folks. But let's just say some things that were meant to be very serious didn't really go off as planned.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that's like, wow,
well,
goofy.
And you know what? That's like life. Sometimes life doesn't go as planned, as your career totally attests.
Yeah.
Okay, you've lived in Peoria a long time. I've
I've been here for 20 years.
Yeah, and I've been here 30. So, I mean, I've been here, we've both been here many, many years. And we often, when Andy and I are at the lunch or someplace like that, we often talk about, you know, this city and what its future might hold and what it could be done to improve it, what we like about it, what we don't like about it. What's your assessment? What is this future of this town, and what is the status of it right now? What do you think?
Oh, my goodness. First of all, that is way above what I actually know. It's easy to talk and say we should do X, Y, and Z if you don't have the money to back it up. Someone else should build this, or we should build that, or whatever. I don't have the answers for that. I think that the city needs to make up its mind what it wants to be. Does it want to be a 24/7 town? And there's a small number of people that want it to be, and that's fine. Does it want to be a small little town and, you know, it shuts down at a certain time and everybody goes home? It could be. I don't know. I mean, it depends upon what you want. There are some people who say this town's fine. I don't think so. I mean, I think that they need to do more to try to improve what I call the wow factor. That's why I joke about building a whitewater course, and that's for Chris Setti too. No, I mean, it's one of those things where if you do, I think that we should try to improve upon what we do have a lot of, which is things to do. You have a zoo, you have a museum, you have pro sports teams, you have a racetrack, you have a ballet, a symphony. I don't think there's many other cities south of 880 that have all that. Try to find some way to package that and to improve upon it, and to try to become the entertainment mecca of downstate. You know, obviously we're not going to be as good as the bigger cities, but it's going to cost much less. And for a family now that frankly times are tight, maybe that is better. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Hitching your wagon to like industry or something like that is probably not the way you would want to go.
Way above my pay grade. And I'm not trying to dodge it, but I truly don't know. And I would be sprouting off at the mouth without having numbers to back it up. I mean, the jobs where you go and build things seem to be drying up. The jobs where you go and sell things seem to be drying up. Maybe they aren't. Maybe they are. Maybe it's going to come back. I don't know. And I don't claim to. I mean, I don't want anybody to take what I say to mean that way. But it's one of those things where people will always have a need to go out and have fun. People will always have a need to go out and do stuff for their kids. And people will always find a way to spend money on their kids or to do things that they want to do. So to me, that makes sense. I mean, but again, it involves finding someone to invest, and then it involves the public willing to do it. But I cover crime. I don't cover big business or stuff like that. That's way above my pay grade.
Well, what's the biggest crime story you've done recently, you think? And
recently or ever?
Just recently. I know. Well, ever and recently. How about that? Of recent vintage and maybe ever.
Oh, I mean, the two biggest that I've covered, and they're older cases. One was Larry Bright, who was a serial killer who killed eight women. That was amazing, shocking, awful. And then I covered the Al Murray case.
Al Murray was the gentleman who was convicted of terrorism.
Yeah, terrorism.
Went to Bradley and
related charge. And he lived. Yeah, he went to school there, and we actually broke the story and led it for much of the time, and it was an amazing case, and you know, with civil rights issues, and I got to call Saudi, and I got to call Qatar, and
who did you talk to in Saudi Arabia?
I talked to the embassy folks, and then I talked to the ministry, like a governmental thing, because I was trying to track down his wife, because his wife left, and I was trying to find out where she was. And then Qatar is where he was from. So, and Al Murray is a common name there, but I had a sense of where he lived, so I just called folks over in Qatar.
What, did you look in the Qatar phone book? I mean, how'd you find all that?
The web, man.
Yeah, how much has that changed reporting? Is the internet and everything else? The
web, and I don't think it is for the better. I think the web has actually done a disservice. Yes, it's fun, and yes, you know, we all want to get news right off the bat, but there's no time to stop and think. If you see a story, you got to get a story up with it as fast as you can, and errors happen. I mean, we are all human. You'll have a typo. You'll put some words out of place. You'll get a fact wrong. It's just going to happen. And we demand our news in such a fast way that we want to know right now everything. but we don't want to pay for it. And no, that's not a big push to get people to sign up here or whatever.
Although if you want to, go right ahead.
Yes, please. But it is one of those things where people don't, when you don't want to pay for things, then there's no news staff. And you don't have reporters out there. Then you have all these bloggers and other things who just either make up stuff, the whole fake news thing, or just get stuff wrong. But the problem is, and they've done studies where they can track tweets and post on social media, the story that is wrong gets put out there and it'll be passed or shared a lot. But when there is a retraction, that is not shared. And there's a lot of
what's the old thing about, the lie goes around the world before the truth can put its trousers on in the morning or something like that?
I've heard that. But, I mean, I don't know that saying, but I've heard it. But, yeah, I mean, I would like to go back. I mean, I'd like people to get their news from the paper in the morning. Duh. I mean, I get it. But it gives you time. It gives people time to think. It gives people time to process their news. It gives people time to understand what it means. And then people, they can wake up in the morning, read the paper. There's very few things that you need to know right now, maybe sports scores. But let's be honest. I mean, most of the stuff can wait a bit, and most of it. And it gives people time to process it and to understand it, and not to get the story one tweet at a time or one Facebook post at a time. And then you could, and it's just hard. I mean, the web is hard, but I use it. I mean, I live tweet from jury trials. I go to crime scenes and I'll take a picture of the video and I put it up there. So I'm just as bad. I mean, I do it too, but it's part of how the business is now.
Yeah, it's a necessary evil, I suppose, in a lot of ways.
Evil, I mean, there is some good to it, but
sure.
People need to understand that sometimes the first draft is not the right draft, and if not, someone's trying to lie. They just didn't have all the facts. I mean, I've written stories where, in fact, I just had a story. It was a raid on a house, and I was talking to a cop, a police officer, and he told me that a certain group went into this house. Later, he called back and said, and this was like hours later, so I wrote it down, and the officer said this, and I even said, he said this. And then later he said, no, it wasn't that. I just got it wrong. So for 6 hours, it was up wrong, and we fixed it. But I mean, what do you do? I mean,
it's especially in cases like that where you're talking about police actions and that sort of thing. The fog of war is always kind of obliterates things, or at least distorts things, at least at the beginning, and it takes a little while for the dust to settle and figure out exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, when I was covering the war, when it was really much bigger years ago, we'd write about battles depending upon whether local guys were part of it or not. And you would be getting these emails and Facebook posts, and you just got to be really careful, because you don't know. Oftentimes, folks get stuff wrong. It's not out of malice. It's just a
human condition.
Yeah, I mean, you get stuff wrong sometimes.
It would also probably help the cause of civility to be a little less web dependent as well among people, as far as
I think that would help, but I think the biggest thing is we all need to understand somehow that, yes, I'm sure there are some very bad folks out there, but for the most part, everybody wants the same thing. For the most part, everybody wants to, I think, do the right thing, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. Their version of the right thing might be different from yours or mine or Matt's there. Well, of course, Matt's. But we get so mean about it, and we get so bitter, and we get so angry because we can sit at our desk or our phone and type or punch or do whatever or dictate, and we forget that there's another person who's just expressing his right or her right to say whatever they feel. And it doesn't mean that they're wrong. Just because you like President X or President Y, and I put it like that because I don't want to get into trouble too. But it doesn't mean you're a bad person. And the level of bile is just ridiculous. And it's awful. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think the best thing in the world that could happen would be to get rid of all social media. If something happened and all those servers went offline for good, yeah, I would lose a bunch of photos of my kids, and I would not get to read about cats like doing water skiing. But I think it would be better. I mean, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, whatever you do, we just at times forget that there's a person on the other side. And we get mad and we get bitter and we get angry. And there's no need for it. And
you and I would be doing this show like from the courthouse square and through amplifiers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem.
Which is, that's fine too.
But then, you also have the fact that more people now than ever read the paper. More people than ever now read our stories because of the web. Remember like a month or so ago when they gave us a sheet of where all the hits were coming from. It's all over the world.
Yeah.
It's literally all over the world. There's a guy in Singapore or in Hong Kong. Our old buddy Dave, who logs in and reads some of this stuff. And it's amazing. Yeah. And
I mean, a lot of that is also because Peoria has kind of a worldwide reach because of Caterpillar and because of other things too.
Well, no, why? It is the center of the universe.
It's the center of the universe. That's exactly right. We always talk. Everybody's got a Peoria connection no matter what.
Everything.
We're heading into the home stretch now, so I want to ask you just a few quick hits. Yeah, and we're going to change gears a little bit.
Cardinals.
Are the Blues ever going to win a Stanley Cup?
No.
Why?
Because as Elton John once said very, very well, I guess that's why they call them the Blues.
What does that even mean?
The Blues are just snake bitten. I mean, they'll play well, and then they wake up one a day, and they look in the mirror, and it dawns on them, wait a second, we are the Blues. And then they go and they rip the hearts out of their fans.
At least this year they're getting it done before the playoffs. So
I know. I'm actually very pleased about that. I'm a huge Blues fan. I'm a huge Cardinals fan. But I've been a lifelong fan, and I'll support them until I die. But the Blues are the way that they can torment their fans is mind-blowing. They could be a top 1 or 2 team in the league and somehow lose in the first round of the playoff and do it in such a bad way that you almost have to do a little hat tip and go bravo.
Yeah, you lose with panache.
Or your goalie will be looking up at the lights and some guy will shoot it from center ice. And while that can happen with mites that I coach, it's not going to happen on an NHL goalie.
And you can't even really call them the Cubs of the NHL anymore because at least the Cubs won a World Series.
No, but you see, the Cubs were way different. See, the Cubs never, for years, the Cubs were awful. But they at least had the common courtesy to be done by, like, say, June. And then you'd have 3 months just to mope. But you weren't upset at the time of the playoff. The Blues would be in the top 4 teams. They would be picked by all the people saying they're going to be the guy. They're going to win the Cup this year. This is their year. People are betting on them. Vegas is high on them. And if Vegas is high on them, then you know, because those bookies know sports better than anybody. And they would go out and lose in the first round to the lowest ranked team in the playoffs. How do you do that?
Better to
year after year, time after time.
Better to have loved and lost than not to have loved at all, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. So, but we'll see. I don't think that they're ever. I mean, they might. Who knows? I mean, right now, I'm involved in so much hockey here that there's only so much I can watch. I haven't watched like the last 3 games because I've had my daughter's team.
You're a coach. You coach your daughter's
my
youth team.
It is the 8U team for PYHA for Peoria Youth Hockey.
And your son plays too.
And my son plays too. His team just won their league.
Good for them.
And they're a fantastic team. They're coached by Luke Gruden,
former Peoria Riverman player.
Yeah. And they finished in the final 8 of state this year. They are 12. They are 12U, and my men's league team is about to play 2 of 9.
You play in the men's league.
Yeah, I play in the beer league. But I would not call what I do playing hockey. I would basically offend all of the real hockey players out there. Instead, I call what I do is I put on gear and I try not to fall down a lot.
Well, you don't offend your loyal readers. I'll say that much.
My loyal readers, hey, Mom, thanks.
Well.
My mom loves it. No,
at least your mom reads your stuff. I don't think my mom reads mine.
Really?
So.
Well, I could always call Mom for you and say, hey, why don't you read some of Nick's stuff? It's amazing.
And then you two would never get off the phone.
Do you think?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. I mean, I could. I think that I could maybe out talk her. We could talk about Clark Cup.
You know what? And on that note, I think we'll call the proceedings to a close.
You sure? You don't wait. Hold on. You don't actually want to talk about your huge love of Clark Cup?
I love the Cubs. I don't love.
No, I would like.
I don't love their mascot.
Hold on. For all this time, you have been talking to me. Now I want to ask you.
Yeah.
What do you got against Clark Cup? Put it out there so everybody can hear.
I'm a grown man and I don't like mascots. That's what I.
Why don't you like mascots? The kids love mascots.
No, fine. I'm not 12 years old. That's why.
The chicken and the fanatic. Are you telling me that wasn't great?
Yeah,
or Max. What was his name in the minor league?
Max Patkin.
Yeah, the clown.
Maybe when I was like 8, but that was many years ago.
But what I'm saying is, if it draws folks into our great sport, what is the harm?
Just it can draw other in. It doesn't need to draw me in.
Well, see, guys, here's the thing: is he happens to have lots of photos of Clark Cup all over his desk.
It plastered from the person who sits on the opposite side of my desk, which is this person right here.
I would plead the fifth.
Yeah, and you wouldn't like that if a source told you that.
If a source told me that, first of all, if a source ever says I plead the fifth, I would tell them you aren't in court. All that you have to say is no. I don't want to talk.
After he's done, he'll probably plead. After you're done with him, he'll probably plead for a fifth.
I would hope so.
Anyway. Thank you very much for being on, Andy. It's been wonderful.
I hope that I didn't waste anybody's time. I don't even know what I said. Well, I hope it was okay.
It'll be out there for all immortality now.
Really?
So,
oh, really? Great.
Yeah, so it'll be great.
I can't wait. Hey, well, first off, we have to thank Matt here.
Matt Dayhoff, our intrepid dial spinner, and keeping us on the air and everything
dial
else.
Spinner? So is he one of those disc?
It's just a phrase. It's just a phrase. Don't worry about it.
A wolf, man, Jack-like thing?
We really are going to call it a day.
Thank
you very much, Andy, for being here. Thanks to Matt Dayhoff for keeping us going. And thank you to you for listening and watching on Nick in the Morning, the podcast. We'll see you next time.